Welcome. Sit down, stay a while for week 3 of Odds On NFL. You already know I'm your host, Dustin Saracini. I'm here alongside Alpha Dog Bets, Matt Jacob, as per usual. Fellas, there's a lot to talk about this week. So let's get right into the headlines, guys. First of all, are the Saints for real? I mean, off the tops, are they for real? Can they be trusted for futures purposes? We'll be breaking down their game against the Eagles later on in the show. But how are we feeling about this Derek Carr-led squad so far? Alpha, I'll throw it over to you, man. Welcome on the show again. Absolutely happy to have you as per usual.
Thrilled to be back as per usual. Thank you both for having me again after last week's performance. Very interesting how the Saints have done this year. They have completely surprised me. I'm not going to lie. I was not very high on the Saints team coming into the year, but how can you not be right now? Alvin Kamara looks like the best player in the NFL. I believe he has 4 rushing touchdowns this year. And Derek Carr is looking like the MVP frontrunner at quarterback. This team has completely surprised me. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to say they're a legit threat out of the NFC yet, but they're getting closer. It's only been 2 games, so I do need to see a little bit more out of them. But through those first 2, they've absolutely been very impressive.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're talking short sample size as with every team in the NFL right now. We'll talk a little bit about that more later, but what do we really know about anyone right now? Are the 0-2 teams that bad? Are the 2-0 teams that good? Because it's a bit topsy-turvy. It's been crazy. And the Saints, you have to give them credit. People want to just dump on them for what they did to the Panthers. Panthers still an NFL team, and they beat them by 37 points, okay?
Yep.
Then they go to Dallas, a team that you just don't know who's going to show up on any given day, but look at the talent, look at the money being spent on that talent, and they blew the doors off them from the word go. So give them the credit. They've earned it to this point, okay? Am I a believer? No. I'm not a believer.
Not yet.
I just don't believe a quarterback who's 11 years into his career, suddenly it clicks and he figures it out. Derek Carr's always been anywhere from slightly below to slightly above average, serviceable, good enough, belongs in the NFL, all those type of things. But is he the quarterback that's going to lead you to promised land? This guy has only been to 1 playoff game. And you can put that on his former franchise, the Raiders, who've been mostly a disaster. But and they almost won that game, but they didn't. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a nice little story. Could the Saints make the playoffs? Sure. I totally could see that. Win the division? Sure. But are they going to do any damage with some of the teams that are in that division? Just look at the odds to win the NFC, and the answer is almost certainly no.
Yeah, and the funny thing about the Saints, too, as well, is Kamara's over-under was, I think, 4.5 on the season, and he's up to 4 already. So, if you hit over on that 4.5, you're in the money at this point.
Yeah, he also one of my things I tweeted. You guys are a little young for this, but he went Al Bundy last week. He scored 4 touchdowns in 1 game. It was awesome. I always love that.
Right?
I mean, if you're an underbetter, you might as well just cross that one out. You probably cross that one. Let's head on over to the Chiefs Bengals, guys. Was it DPI? Now, I'm sure everyone's seen the video, and before we get into the next headline, I just want to know, do you guys believe this was DPI? We already know, the Chiefs have this meme mentality that they always get bent over, but not really. They always get helped out by the refs. Do you guys think this was DPI? Was he early? I believe he was. I will throw that over to you, Alpha.
No question about it. There's no debating this. He 1,000% was early, and not only was he early, the way he hit him in the full impact there completely made it so he had no chance to catch the ball. I absolutely think, and I don't even think I know, that's the right call. You see it right there in front of you. He had no opportunity to make the catch. It was also a phenomenal play. If you watch it from different angles here, Rashee Rice waited perfectly to jump. He waited and kind of baited into the hit early. He made a great play there, but to me, it was 100% a pass interference.
Matt, your thoughts?
Okay. Was it pass interference by the letter of the law? I think it was. I actually, just before coming on the show, guys, was doing some research on this play. I hadn't really had a chance to Zapruder it and break it down. And somebody brought up a really, really good point. I'm not taking credit for this. If the roles were reversed, I don't mean if the team's roles were reversed, but if the D-back was the receiver and the receiver was the D-back, they would not have called offensive pass interference. The defensive back got to the spot first. He has as much right to the ball as the wide receiver does, okay? And so that's the way the refs would have seen it if the 2 guys were on opposite, offense, defense, offense. So I think that's a legitimate thing. Was it pass interference? Yeah. I mean, you're going to throw the flag there, but I will say this. Yes, the Chiefs are the new Patriots. They just are.
Yep.
They're getting the breaks. If Joe Burrow throws that pass, against the Chiefs, it gets called pass interference. If Daniel Jones throws that pass against the Chiefs, they keep the flag in their pocket. Let's be honest.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that's where you get into the, I won't say shadiness. I don't think it's the officials or betting on the games or anything. It's just the subconscious way we view certain quarterbacks, certain teams. And I just think that's the situation. But yes, I think by the letter of the law, it was pass interference. You got to control your body in that spot. And I don't even know that the ball would have been catchable because, like you said, Rice was backing into him, right?
Exactly.
I don't see catching that pass. Just lay off. You win the game.
Yeah, you're going to upset one or both, even both parties when you talk about this call. I mean, Mahomes, you said it, last gasp, 4th and 16 with the game on the line, yellow laundry all over the field because of it. You see Burrow put his arms up because he thinks he won and then walk it back so fast. We all kind of knew it was going to happen. Of course, the Chiefs go on to win. But guys, final headline, Philly blows up on Monday Night Football. Who's to blame for this collapse? Is it Fangio? Is it Hurts? Is it Barkley? Is it Sirianni for the play calling? Barkley for the drop? Blame has been thrown pretty much everywhere over the last minute collapse against the Falcons. Who are we blaming here, Matt? Who are we blaming here?
In order, and it's close. In order, I think I'm going to go Sirianni and Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you drop that pass. I mean, 80-year-old grandfather would have caught that, but it was right in his hands. But the play call was fine. The decision to not go for it on 4th down was a problem. You could also question whether they should have thrown the ball at all. The point is that the pass was made. It was executed right. I wouldn't have thrown the ball there. I would have run the ball, forced him to use that timeout, run time off the clock. And then if you're going to do that, you're thinking, okay, this is 2 plays we're calling at once. If he gets it, if he doesn't get it, we're going for it. We're doing the push, whatever it takes. And then if not, then you're sitting him on the 7-yard line anyway. So, I think Sirianni is just – I don't know what's going on with this guy in the last half year, but he seems to have lost his mojo.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that one. It's Sirianni. He did say afterwards that there is a mechanism in that play that if nobody's wide open, then Hurts just takes a knee and falls down and the clock runs to kick a field goal or whatever. But of course, Barkley was wide open. It was kind of the worst case scenario. It goes right through his hands. It's tough to watch. First of all, I want to shout out Eric. It's his first time watching. He's from Ghana. Hey, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Alpha, who's to blame for you when it comes to the Philly collapse?
So this is a difficult one for me because it's multiple levels. It's not just one guy. Sirianni, to me, he's the head of the whole thing, and is there a more unlikable guy than Sirianni right now in the NFL? I mean, he's impossible to root for. The way that he just acts on the sideline, the way that he speaks after games. It is on him, but I also think a lot is on Vic Fangio, which pains me to say because he's one of the few people that went to my college. But Vic Fangio called an absolutely disastrous final drive. How do you give up the sideline and give up chunk plays on every play? It's not like they had 1 or 2 big splash plays to get them all the way down the field. It was methodical. It was 5 to 6 plays where they dinked it to the outside, got 10 to 15 yards, and got out of bounds. It was an absolutely terrible performance on that last drive. You're up 6 points. The other team has, a minute and a half to go, and they have no timeouts. I get Barkley should have made the catch, but if you've watched Saquon Barkley for the last 3-4 years, this is nothing new for him. He leads the NFL in drops from running backs. That's his 16th since 2021, so this happens frequently. That's the big wrinkle in Saquon Barkley's game. A lot of passes that you think are easy plays, he just happens to drop. As a Giants fan, I may have enjoyed that a little bit. But I do think the main bulk of this is on the 2 coaches, on Vic Fangio and for the head coach there, Nick Sirianni. I really do think the play calling was atrocious, and they easily could have ran that clock down and gotten out of there.
And
hey, Alpha, what do you think about the point about just the fact that maybe the defense wasn't ready? They thought that they didn't have to go back on the field again, and maybe just the mentally having to flip that switch again might have had something to do with just them not being in the spots they needed to be in.
That's a good point as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Alpha.
That's a good point as well, but at the end of the day, you were going to probably have to come back on the field either way unless they got that first down, which they didn't have a gap there. They were pretty much near the end zone. So either if they scored a touchdown or got a field goal or the way it did end, they were going to probably have to come back on the field. So to me, that's more on Fangio again. This team has to be ready for every single situation, and they were not ready for that final situation.
You're getting paid a lot of money to be ready for those situations, but at the same time, and nobody knows Fangio disaster class as much as me, especially with him being the coordinator for the Dolphins. Oh my God, he has been absolutely atrocious. I knew when Barkley dropped that ball with 50 seconds left or just over a minute left, whatever they had, I knew there's an opportunity for Kirk Cousins to win this game just because Fangio was up there calling the plays. He just has no, like you said, Alpha, he's given away the sidelines, chunk plays. There was no design to stop a team with a minute left in the fourth quarter. They had no idea what they were doing back there. It was just way too easy. But fellas, let's move on to our primetime picks before we discuss the Philly Monday Night Football blow up the entire show. Just like that, fellas, we're off to the races. In the spirit of transparency, last Thursday Night Football was not kind to me. Hand up. I'll be responsible for that. I bet
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's one of my main rules too, fellas, when it comes to betting. It's do not bet with my heart, but the Fins were in prime time. It just felt so good. Lessons are sometimes expensive. And last Thursday, I had an expensive lesson. Miami taught me that lesson. But it's all business for me this week. It's all business for the boys this week. Let's head on over to the AFC East with the nice Thursday night football game tonight. We got the Patriots. We got the Jets. 56% of bets are on the Jets at -6.5. 75% of bets are on the over at 38. What are you thinking here, Big Matt? What are you liking?
Yeah, you know what? I was going back and forth on this game quite a bit because it's a bit difficult game to handicap. These are two teams, again, to go back to my opening sort of mantra about, we don't really know who's what right now. I mean, the Patriots have looked way better than anyone thought they would.
Absolutely.
They easily could be 2-0. I mean, they thoroughly beat a Bengals team that went on the road and should have beat the Chiefs team. So, again, it's really weird right now. What I will say about this game, though, I'm taking the points. I think you probably say, hey, you're crazy. It's not Brady there anymore. It's not Belichick anymore. The Patriots' dominance, blah, blah, blah. Well, wait a second. Since Brady left, New England's 7-1 straight up and 6-2 against the spread against Patriots. And, okay, well, who's quarterbacking? Cam Newton went 2-0. Mac Jones, gents, 5-0 against the Jets. Bailey Zappi's the only one who took the loss in last year's final meeting between the two teams. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is on the field. I get it. It's a different Jets team. But 6 points is 6 points in what should be a very low-scoring game. I'm pretty sure someone else here is gonna get to that. Also, the Jets are still just 3-9 against the spread in their last 12, despite covering last week at Tennessee. They haven't covered in back-to-back games as a favorite, guys, since week 5 and 6 of 2018. And the Jets are 4-11 ATS as a favorite since 2019. So it's not a good spot that they're in. I do lean towards the under. I'll let you guys tackle it from there, other than point out the last three meetings: 17-3, 15-10, 10-3. This should be a low-scoring game.
How about you, Alpha?
Well, Matt, you gave me a perfect leadway into this because I am all over the under here. It's one of my favorite plays of the weekend slate, under 38.5. One of the things this Patriots team has been doing, which a lot of people haven't really been talking about, is they're using their backup left tackle, Caden Wallace, as a tight end. What they're doing is they're stacking the offensive box, so they have to run the ball to the outside. Every team knows what the Patriots are trying to do. The Bengals knew. Everyone knows their game plan is to run the ball over and over and over. And what I think is going to happen is they're going to continue to get the ball to the outside and make the cornerbacks have to make the tackles, such as Sauce Gardner, which is not his strength. I think this game's going to go extremely low, like I said. I have a couple props for it as well, but 38.5 is just too many points. The Jets are missing too much on the defensive side as well. Jermaine Johnson is out for the year. He either tore his ACL or his Achilles. I forget which one it is, but either way, it's a season-ending injury. He was their best pass rusher, and then Hassan Reddick is still not there, so this team has not been able to either get to the quarterback or stop the run. They have not been able to tackle either. So you're going to go against a team that's going to be bringing in an extra lineman to play tight end, and they're going to run it outside all game long. I agree with Matt. I think it's a Patriots play as well, but my favorite play on this game is the under 38.5.
So I'm going the same way as Matt as well. I think there's a slugfest and then there's a slogfest, and I don't even know if that's a word, but I think this is going to be a slogfest. We all know the Pats dominate, the Jets and Tom Brady era, or the post-Tom Brady era as well. I mean, they're 7-1 against the New York Jets since the Hall of Famer left. The Pats have also been betting darlings. They just know how to cover. They're 9-2 and they're taking 6.5 points over their last 11 games in that situation. And not to mention they're 2-0 so far this year covering. Bookmakers just view this Pats team as much worse than they are, in my opinion. I'm thinking this line should be closer to 3.5 or 4 than 6, especially with the Jets struggling to find their identity. New England's rush defense is second best in the league so far. They're just allowing 58 yards per game on the ground, which will force Aaron Rodgers into the pass. And on the other side, the Jets have been getting gashed on the ground. They'll be going up against Ramondre Stevenson, who's been an absolute dog this year. As an AFC East divisional matchup, I have this one being extremely tight to the end. and having close to a touchdown in your back pocket, like when it comes to 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that's kind of just a warm and cozy feeling if we're looking at a 3-point difference. I love the under too, but my main pick right now, guys, is the Pats 6.5. Let's keep it rolling to Sunday Night Football. We got the Chiefs, we got the Falcons. 80% of bets on the Chiefs at -3.5, 54% on the over at 46.5. Alpha, where are we going here, bud?
So this one, I have a little bit of an interesting play here. So I don't have a straight play on this game, but I am parlaying the Chiefs. We are going over the second leg later on the show, so I will complete the parlay when we go over it. I don't trust the Chiefs on the spread right now. It is currently, I believe, at a 3.5, which is just too fishy for me to take. We all saw what happened last weekend in a game I thoroughly thought they were going to win by a big margin. The Chiefs, in typical Chiefs fashion, go down and kick a last-second field goal. Seems like that's how they get the bulk of their wins. It comes down to a final drive. They don't really blow a lot of teams out, and I think it's exactly what we're going to see here. I'm taking the money line in a parlay, like I said, because I don't trust the 3.5, and I sure do not trust taking the Falcons because their stock's going to be high in this game. A lot of people saw what happened on primetime Monday night with the Eagles and the Falcons. They have a lot of high stock on the Falcons. I'm not a big Falcons believer yet. I need to see more out of them. But in this matchup, I don't trust the 3.5. I'm taking the money line on the Chiefs. I'll complete the parlay when we get there.
Matt?
Yeah, this was another tricky game to handicap. I'm liking the under in this contest. I would lean Chiefs on the side. Kansas City is 7-1 against the spread in their last 8. Despite last week's non-cover, they covered 7 in a row before that. And I can't, as much as impressive as the Falcons were at the end of that game and just hanging in the game in the first place, I just can't get that scent and that sight of them against the Steelers in the opener and losing to Justin Fields at home. Here you go. You got Kirk Cousins. Is he going to win 2 straight primetime games, including one against Mahomes? I don't know. But I like the under in this game strictly because I think we're going to see the Falcons defense has shown up this start of the season. I mean, they played pretty darn well against the Eagles, holding them to the point total that they did. The Chiefs defense has been a little bit exposed against the Ravens and the Bengals. Probably should get more points than they have, but I think that they can contain Cousins in this game. And guys, one of my favorite stats that I've been tracking since the beginning of last year, these primetime unders, but specifically on Sunday Night Football. Since the start of 2023, the under is 15-5 on Sunday Night Football, including 15-3 in the last 18. And both of this year's Sunday Night Football games haven't even come close to the total. So 46.5 is a pretty hefty one these days. So I'm like the under and a little bit of a lean towards the Chiefs.
Matt, I'm honestly with you. I mean, you're Pats plus 6.5. I'm under on this one too. If both, I think both of us will be right, but we'll have to find that out. I mean, to me, the question is Kirk Cousins all the way back, and does it matter against this Chiefs team? One thing we know for sure is that this Falcons team is only averaging 6 points per game, ranking 19th in total offense. And on the other side, it's not like this Chiefs team is lighting the world on fire either. The Chiefs rank 15th in total offense. Mahomes is coming off just 151-yard performance through the air against a shoddy Bengals secondary. I think that was one of his worst performances that we've seen in the last few years from him in a passing yards perspective. He'll now be going up against a top 5 passing defense in the NFL with 80% on the Chiefs. I still see this being a close game. And in order to win, I think the Falcons know that they have to dominate that time of possession. That means more Bijan. That means more clock being chewed up and less opportunity for big plays. With the over sitting at 46.5, I believe it's 47 at some sports books. I think this one sneaks under the number. I'm with you, Matt. I'm taking the under. Let's get it going, man. So we're both on the Pats plus 6. We're both on the under. And now, Alpha, you can complete your parlay as we move on to the Monday Night Football doubleheader. We got the Jags. We got the Bills. 55% of bets are on the Bills. 62 on the over at 45.5. Alpha, complete the parlay for us, pal.
I think everyone could assume where I'm going once we've given the game away, but I am taking the Bills as a second leg. You can get the parlay at a plus 130, guys. I do think the Bills are going to absolutely dominate this Jaguars team. I don't know how you guys feel about the Jaguars right now, but I'm definitely not very high on them. They lost to a very lowly Browns team. I'm not high on the Browns, and that was an absolutely disgusting game. They lost that 18-13. They also lost to the Dolphins, who had so many issues with them before the game, during the game. A lot was going on with the Dolphins that game, and they were still able to take it to them. So we all saw what the Bills did to the Dolphins last week as well. The Bills' defense is much better than I gave them credit for. I have to put my hand up. I do have to talk about that. I did think the Bills' defense was really going to struggle this year. They had to replace a ton of guys, and most of the guys they replaced them with are guys you've never heard of. a lot of young guys, a lot of high-level draft picks, and they've been panning out. The defense looks legit, and I think they are going to easily be able to get this one done. Give me the Bills. Give me the Chiefs money line parlay at a plus 130.
Matt, who are you liking here?
Yeah, this is this game was pretty easy for me to handicap because all you got to do is look at the common opponent, and they both played common opponents already. We're 2 weeks in. They both played them in the same spot at Miami. Jags lost 23-20. Bills rolled 41-10. Yeah, Tua left the game early. That game was 41-10 when he left. So there was no getting around the fact. I'm sorry, not 41-10, 31-10. Sorry, Dustin. Don't let me make it worse than it really was.
It was already terrible for 3.5 hours.
But yeah, so again, and also this is a bit of a revenge situation for Buffalo. They went to London last year and lost to Jacksonville in a game they were favored by 5.5 points, 25-20. In fact, Trevor Lawrence is 2-0 against Josh Allen. He also beat him 9-6 at home in Buffalo as a 14.5 point underdog in 2021. But Lawrence is the key here. Guys, it's time. It's time for people to start talking about him like they talk about other quarterbacks who are flops. He won a playoff game he had no business winning because the Chargers coach at the time is a buffoon. But other than that, what has he done? He teases. He hasn't come close to living up to the potential everyone thought he was going to be. And like Alpha said, the Bills' defense has played really well, and the Jags have scored 13 points and 17 points in this so far this season. So the Bills have scored 34 and 31 in their first 2 games. They've scored 20 plus in 12 straight games, 24 plus in 9 of their last 11. So the offense is getting it done, the defense is getting done, and the Bills are flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them. They're talking about everybody else. It's probably a good spot for Buffalo to be in.
And guys, if we're talking about analysis, go on over to Oddspedia Insights. These guys right here have written some incredible pieces for the Thursday night football nighter. Tonight we've got a doubleheader for Monday, but we also, of course, have the Sunday night football. I'm going as well with the Bills, fellas. I mean, they just made me a believer. Who are these Bills, especially in the secondary? Alpha said it as well. I went off on them for having no wideouts other than Shakir, no household names on defense. And yes, they put me in my place literally all game long. I think it was 7-7 for like 10 seconds. I had an ounce of happiness when Tua threw the ball to H.N. to it for a touchdown down the flat on the right side. But other than that, it was pure torture for the entire game. And when you see the Bills and Jags, this is a game and a tale of 2 teams heading in opposite directions. Jags own one of the worst scoring offenses in the NFL. They scored just 15 points a game. Doug Peterson has had some questionable game management decisions as well. And the Bills just look to take their own division again. They are absolute competitors this year. Lawrence came out and said it himself last week. He said, we just suck right now. And it's true. They kind of do. With Allen taking care of the football, the Bills defense proving they can make plays. I'm taking Buffalo. I'm an absolute Bills believer this year, which sucks to say because I'm a huge Dolphins fan. But yes, Buffalo -5 in prime time in front of Bills Mafia. Let's go, Bills Mafia. Throw me through a table. Why don't you throw me through a table right now? But all right, let's move on over to our last Monday nighter. Guys, I absolutely love the NFL for doing this. We love doubleheaders. That's football all the time, all night. Washington Commanders at Cincinnati Bengals, 58% on the Bengals at -7.5, 60% on the under at 47. Alpha, is it the Jaden Daniels show on Monday? Let us know.
I do not think it is, but I also don't think we're going to see a ton of points in this ball game. The Bengals looked great last week against the Chiefs. As Matt said earlier, they really should have got the win outright. However, this game I really do think is going to be an under 46.5. Neither of these teams have impressed me offensively, especially the Bengals. They're supposed to be this high-flying, powered offense, and they just haven't showed it to me this year. On the other side, when you talk about the Commanders, I just watched every snap in that absolutely putrid Giants-Commanders game, and the Commanders drove down the field every single drive, and they got in the red zone. They didn't score a touchdown once. They had, I believe it was 7 field goals, but they were in the red zone 7 times and they couldn't punch it in. We're all seeing the rookie quarterbacks right now really struggle, which is to be expected with a lot of rookie quarterbacks, but I still believe not a single one has thrown a touchdown pass yet. I expect this to go comfortably under the 46.5. I do think the Bengals are going to start to get it right. They are too good of a team to struggle like this and be where they are, but in this game, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and the Bengals do win this game.
Matt.
You just took 2 words right out of my mouth. You said get it right. My first sentence was it's a get right game for Cincinnati. Yeah. They should have won at KC. Said it before. It's pretty obvious. They should have won that game. People talk about the last play, or virtually the last play of the fourth quarter. It was the second play of the fourth quarter that was really the damage It was Burrow's fumble that was returned for a touchdown. It was almost not a fumble. It was real questionable, but the fact Burrow got up and walked off the field, I'm like, okay, he fumbled. He knows he fumbled, and that's that. But they should have won that game. They've got a situation here where they've got a team that is not very good. Jaden Daniels has had his moments, but they gave up 37 points to Tampa Bay. This defense is not any better under Dan Quinn. Last week, Washington ended a string of allowing at least 27 points in 9 straight games because they played, the Giants. They've still allowed 30-plus points in 11 of their last 18. This is the time for Burrow to get rolling. We've talked a lot in the first 2 weeks about Cincinnati's struggles in the first 2 weeks since Joe Burrow joined the franchise. Well, they're 3-0-1 straight up. Yes, straight up there was a tie, and against the spread in week 3 under Burrow. So this is where they start to get the wheels going. And, you got a situation here where Washington, we'll talk more about this. Washington last week allowed 2 touchdowns to Daniel Jones. They've allowed an NFL high 6 touchdowns after allowing an NFL high 39 touchdown passes last year. This secondary is a disaster. I like the Bengals. Torn on the total, but I will point out, since I pointed out the Sunday night situation, the Monday night football totals are 15-6 to the under since the start of last season. Put those together, guys. We're talking 30-11 to the under in just the Sunday night and the Monday night primetime games. You can make some money doing that.
So, Alpha, you're on the right path with that under then, buddy.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, they tell us not to copy each other's homework. Did you hack into my Google Docs somehow and just looked at all my picks and said, hey, I really like this pick?
I'm too old to know how to hack into anything.
Yeah. I mean, for me, guys, it's like, what has Washington showed us this season to believe that they can keep up with a fine-tuned animal like Joe Burrow? He really is a fine-tuned animal, and he is coming back. I think he threw for 258 yards last week on a hurt wrist. His over-under was 224, I think, so that's soared over. The Commanders were hardly able to get past a terrible, and I mean pretty damn terrible Sora Alpha again, a Giant squad after being dismantled by the Bucs in week 1. Washington's secondary has allowed 373, I'm getting dyslexic, passing yards to wideouts this season. And for the Bengals, they're throwing 65% of the time. For me, I think that's good enough to lean Bengals this week. I think Joe Burrow has an absolute field day on that secondary. Give me Bengals -7.5, fellas.
Quickly, I do have breaking news regarding the Bengals. T. Higgins is practicing today. It looks like he will make his season debut this week.
And real quickly on my end, we all love the Bills, and 2 of us love the Bengals. Bills -5, Bengals -7.5. Guys, this season, favorites of 5+ points are only 5-5 straight up and 1-9 against the spread. So it's dicey out there.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. Let's all we can do is better than last week, right? That's all we can focus on. Be better than last week. But let's head on over to the game of the week, and damn, it is a game of the week. We got the Eagles, we got the Saints. Like we talked about, are the Saints for real? We don't really know quite yet. We haven't seen enough of them. 56% of bets are on the Saints at -2.5, 58% on the over at 49. Are the Saints for real, Matt? You talked a little bit about it, but I'm going to let you lead this one off. Who do you like against the Cowboys and the Eagles and Saints? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be real for one more week. I like the Saints in this game. A very interesting situation here when this game opened up Sunday night. Obviously, the Eagles hadn't played yet. The Eagles were a 2.5-point favorite. That line flipped, got all the way up to Saints -3. That's a big, big flip. Now it looks like a consensus of 2.5. You could still get 3 out there if you like Philly. Look, New Orleans' defense, they gave up 353 yards to Dallas last week, but only 68 on the ground. And most of the 285 passing yards were well after the Saints had the game in hand. But here's the stat that really I like. I just tweeted out, and then someone hit me back with a very important point that I will point out too. The Saints defense. So look, you can't look at how many rushing yards the Saints have allowed because the teams they faced have been behind. They're not running the ball. And the Eagles situation, they've been in 2 very close games. So the two different game situations. So I went and looked at yards per carry. The Saints defense is allowing 3.07 yards per carry, second in the NFL. The Eagles, 6.43 yards per carry, dead last in the NFL. The point that someone brought up to me, fair point. The Saints haven't faced good running backs, good rushing offenses anyway. So that 3.07 may be a little bit skewed. But we're talking 3.4 yards per carry more that the Eagles are allowing than the Saints, double basically. It's crazy. And look at Jalen Hurts. He is clearly regressing. We talk about people not talking about certain things. No one's talking about Jalen Hurts. He's thrown an interception in 6 straight games, 18 in the last 19 games going back to week 2 of last season. The previous 31 games, he threw 15 picks. So something's off here. He's got no A.J. Brown again. He passed for 278 with Brown in week 1, only 183 without Brown on Monday Night Football. So I like the Saints to get it rolling, to keep it going one more time. I do like the over. I think this is going to be a high-scoring Monday Night Football game.
Alpha.
Oh, sorry, not Monday night. Sorry, Sunday. We're on the
Sunday.
yeah.
Great segue to me, though, because I am all over the over in this spot. Matt said it perfectly. I do think we are going to see a ton of points here. The Saints offense, I said it earlier, they really have surprised me. Derek Carr's thrown for 450 passing yards. But in this one, I do think we're going to see the Alvin Kamara show. Matt, you put it perfectly. The Eagles have struggled tremendously with the running attack. And Alvin Kamara looks like a brand new player. He looks like Alvin Kamara from 3-4 years ago. He is scary with the ball right now. And they're also doing a great job of throwing him the ball out of the backfield. So I think we're going to see a ton of short plays because the Eagles have struggled to stop the short play. The short running plays, the short screens, the short passes are leading to big chunk plays and big gains. I also think the Eagles will get their offense a little bit better than what they had last week. I think we'll see a bigger dose of Saquon Barkley. I know he did drop the ball there at the end of the game, but they did not run the ball with him enough during the game. If they would have utilized him more, I think they would have scored a lot more because he was getting big chunk plays, and I do think that they were able to run all night. So it was bad play calling. They should be able to get it corrected this week, and we should see a ton of points. The over is one of my favorite plays of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Alpha. I mean, are the Cowboys just that bad, or are the Saints an actual Super Bowl contender this season? I know it's early, but this matchup against the Eagles is going to go a long way to answering that question, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, since I don't know, I mean, we don't know the answers. I'm off a side here because I think it's literally a 50-50. Like, I can see the Saints walking over the Eagles, and I can also see the Eagles coming back and a very motivated Eagles team winning this game. So I'm off a side here, and I'm with you, Alpha. I'm leaning the over with the public here. You've seen all the stats. The Saints are the highest scoring team in the NFL with 45 points a game. That's 11 more than the Cardinals, who are second. Granted, their opposition that they've played haven't been the best, but still 11 more points than any other team in the NFL is nothing to slouch at, right? Kamara has an incredible 4 touchdowns already. They'll be going up against one of the worst defenses in the early goings of this year. Yes, the Eagles have allowed close to 400 yards a game against them. Thank you, Vic Fangio. Oh my God. Well, also around 26 points per game. The Eagles can pick up their side of the bargain against the defense that has held up their own. That's the only question I have. Can they pick up their side of the bargain in order for us to hit this over? You have to believe they're good for at least 17 to 20 points here, right? If you're a narrative bettor, like I said, you have to believe the Philly offense will be extremely motivated after digesting last week's loss. I think this goes over the total, partly because Vic Fangio has no idea what he's doing as a defensive coordinator for the Philly. I think we're in for an absolute shootout here, Alpha. I'm on your side. I'm picking the over. And
Let's
Matt, you were kind of on the over too, right? Can we say squad ride? Can we say it?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Sure, let's do it.
We'll do the squad ride. I had a banner ready for it anyway, so we're doing it.
Let's go.
Our last
Bills too, right? Bills -5. Aren't we all on that too?
Bills -5. Yep, we're on. Hey, we've got 2 squad rides today, guys. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Usually, those mean wins. To be
honest, my official play is the Bills money line, but I'll take the -5.
Oh yeah, he's on that.
I'm on the parlay, but I'm also on the Bills, so we'll go with the squad ride for it.
There we go. If Dan was here, he usually works the back. If this is your first show, guys, he'd be hitting that DJ spin, whatever it is.
He'd be ripping it. He'd be ripping it.
You'd be ripping it the whole show. Oh, you have me directing the show. That's why you probably see a couple screw ups here and there. But hey, bear with me. We got the last game of the week before we head into our props here, fellas. We've got, who's the game? Ravens, Cowboys. 67% of bets are on the Ravens at -1.5. 57% are on the over at 47. I'll throw it back over to you, Matt. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I totally understand what is essentially the pick 'em price here because, it just really it depends on which team is going to do what they want to do best. And I think that team is going to be Baltimore. I think what Baltimore is going to do is the same thing that New Orleans did last week, the same thing Green Bay did in wild card game, and that's muscle up, push around the small Cowboys front and run, whether it's Derrick Henry, Henry's backup, Lamar Jackson, run the ball, keep the ball in Dak Prescott's hands because Baltimore's Achilles heel apparently is they can't stop the pass. They're dead last against the pass, allowing 257 passing yards per game. And let's point out that, yes, they faced Patrick Mahomes in the first game. It's forgivable. They faced Gardner Minshew at home last week, and they're still giving up 257 yards a game and through the air. The rush defense, on the other hand, is number 1 in the NFL. Talk about both ends of the sword, right? 49.5 rushing yards. So I think that Baltimore is going to try to run the ball, control the clock, just beat up on Dallas. And, I think that it's Dallas 190 yards last week by the Saints on the ground, 4.9 yards per carry. Packers 143 in the playoff game. And Dallas, guys, has given up 92 points in its last 2 home games.
Ooh, yeah.
Not good.
Not by my math. That is not good. Alpha, what are you thinking?
Bounce back game from the Cowboys. Everything Matt said, I understand why you would lean that way, but I really do think the Cowboys at home are going to get it done. I know they were a joke at home last game, but over the last year or two, they've been one of the best home teams, if not the best home team in the NFL. Like you said, I do think that the big way that the Cowboys can move the ball and have some success is throwing all game long, and I think we see an absolutely monster CeeDee Lamb game. I know he's listed as questionable, but I do think he is going to be able to give it a go. And when you look at the injury report for the Ravens, they have a lot of guys we're unsure about. Kyle Hamilton is a true questionable. Ronnie Staley is a true questionable. And they also have Kyle Van Noy, who's a true questionable. So I do think they need all those guys. And even if they don't have, let's say, a Kyle Hamilton, it'll be really, really tough to stop the Cowboys from throwing the ball deep. I think we see a massive CeeDee Lamb game, and I'm on the Cowboys on the money line at a -103.
I love it. I love it. Yes, guys. And hey, variety here. Variety. I love the over in this one. You know, Baltimore has one of the worst. They just haven't been able to clean up the middle of the field with Patrick Queen gone. They have one of the worst pass defenses in the league so far. And on the other side, you know, Dallas couldn't stop Kamara. That's Baltimore's bread and butter, their running game, if they can get it going. They couldn't stop Kamara. They couldn't stop Carr and the Saints last week if their life absolutely depended on it. We said slogfest and slugfest. I think this is going to be an absolute slugfest. I think points are going to be easy to come by. You said it, Alpha. I mean, Dak's going to have to drop back a ton of times here. I think, like I said, points are going to be easy to come by. Both of these teams are in absolute desperation mode. Give me the over at 47. I absolutely love that play. And fellas, we're actually, I thought we were making good time. We're almost at 40 minutes.
We're not quite.
Every single time I think we're making good time, we are not making good time. Guys, let's move on over to our best props for Sunday. You know, from picks to props. It's one of my favorite segments where we roundtable this bad boy and fire off our 3 best prop plays for the Sunday slate, one at a time. Get out your pen and pad because we've been hitting these. I mean, Matt's definitely been hitting these. We've had a great week on our props. Fellas, if Dan was here right now, again, I tell him to sound the damn alarm. Let's get to it. I will start. I'm going to go. My first prop is Derek Carr over 232 passing yards. The math is simple in this one. You know, the Eagles defense has not been good under Vic Fangio. The offense for the Saints is rolling. Fangio's defense is not going to change over 1 week. The D coordinator was terrible with the Dolphins and lost that unit later. He's been even worse in Philly. Carr only had to throw 16 times, completing 11 of those passes against the Cowboys to soar over this number at 243. But I believe he'll have to be attempting at least 25 to 30 in this one as the Eagles come in the dome to try and go head-to-head with this offense. You know, like I said before, we'll see a shootout. And if we do, this number should clear in the third quarter. I mean, 232 passing yards, I'll take that over any day of the week. Matt, what's your prop of the week?
Yeah, I just had some PTSD, guys, from elementary school when I was scolded constantly. You don't pay attention. You don't follow instructions. Well, I didn't follow instructions, guys. I've got a Monday night prop here. Sorry, I'm gonna cheat.
Go ahead. Hey, go ahead.
I've got Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdown passes. It's a little juicy, -145. I've seen as high as 160. But guys, let's go back to the Commanders. I brought it up earlier. All those touchdown passes they've been giving up the last 2 years. Again, I brought it up, I think, on week 1. I'm just going to say it again because we got one name to add to this list. Among the quarterbacks, these aren't all the quarterbacks that have thrown 2+ touchdown passes against the Commanders since the start of the 2023 season. Justin Fields threw 4, the madman Tommy DeVito threw 3, Desmond Ridder threw 2, Geno Smith threw 2, Tyrod Taylor threw 2, and now we add Mr. Daniel Jones thrown 2 as well. That's 3 Giants quarterbacks named DeVito, Taylor, and Jones that have beat this Washington defense for 7 touchdowns the last 3 times they played him. Burrow's going to throw 2 unless for some reason he gets hurt, which is a Joe Burrow thing to do.
Alpha, let's go.
First one I'm going to give out is going to be Jerome Ford, anytime touchdown at +130. We all know who Jerome Ford is playing. They're playing the New York Football Giants, and the Giants gave up 133 yards to Brian Robinson on the ground last week on 17 carries. I know the Giants did not allow a touchdown, but the Browns are a much better team than the Washington Commanders are right now. I do think we are going to see Jerome Ford be able to find the end zone maybe twice. He will at least once. I don't think this game is going to be as close as the Giants-Commanders game was. That was a divisional game, a lot of passion in that game. We're not going to see that in this one. I think the Giants go back to their ways. I think the Browns roll, and the way they're going to score touchdowns is going to be running the ball and getting it in with Jerome Ford. So give me Jerome Ford anytime touchdown at a plus 130.
Great pick. Great pick. I'm going for my second prop of the week. I'm going CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown. You touched upon it, Alpha. That game this is a pure volume play. You know Dak's going to be stepping back 25 to 30 times in that game. Dallas has to use and feed CeeDee against Baltimore if they're going to win this game flat out. Last week, they did just that because they're in catch-up mode as he was targeted 10 times in the loss to the Saints. Dallas needs to use CeeDee in the middle of the field. Like I said before, Baltimore is weak. They need to move him and get him motioning as much as possible, get him open. You know that defense is going to be keying in on him. But the volume will be there in terms of points scored in my eyes. The volume will be there in terms of targets. And I think CeeDee cashes this one for us. No problem. Give me CeeDee anytime touchdown. Matt, your second best prop of the week.
Yeah, this is a contrarian play, guys. It's similar to the contrarian play I had in my article. We didn't talk about it last week, and it was actually one of my Alpha's plays, and I had Joe Mixon under his rushing yards. I saw a comeback on that. And, this is J.K. Dobbins. Leads the NFL in rushing, guys. Good luck winning that bar bet. Who leads the NFL in rushing right now? It's J.K. Dobbins with 266 yards ahead of Jordan Mason, who Alpha brought up earlier. No, Jerome Ford. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
but anyway, you got a situation here where they're playing the Steelers. They played the Panthers last week. They played the Raiders the first week. Neither one of those rush defenses are very good. The Steelers are obviously very good. They're tied for fourth, allowing 76.5 rushing yards per game. I know Bijan Robinson got him for 68 yards and 18 carries in week one, but I just think this is a situation where I really believe Harbaugh wants to keep both of his running backs healthy. He wants to keep them both happy. I just see this as more of a Gus Edwards game. Give him some more brute, spare Dobbins, who's constantly injury prone. And then there's a Herbert injury thrown in here too, right? Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? If he plays, how much time is he going to drop back? Will that affect the way the Steelers play defense? So I think Dobbins has a bit of a come down. I think this number's a little low for my taste at 50.5 rushing yards, but I think that's reflective of the odds makers sort of sharing my opinion that Dobbins comes down a little bit this week.
Alpha.
He can't stay as hot as he's been. I mean, he's setting record Chargers games. He has the most yards through the first two games of a Chargers season since a guy named LaDainian Tomlinson. So a pretty good back that they've had there in the past. But, guys, my second favorite prop this week is going to be Brock Purdy over 236.5 passing yards. It's a different offense right now without Christian McCaffrey, and we saw a little taste of it last week against the Vikings. Brock Purdy did throw 36 times for 319 yards. I don't think he's going to quite have about 300 this game, but it's just too low at the 236 for Brock Purdy, as this team is now going to be throwing the ball more. They need to get the ball quickly to Kittle. They need to get the ball quickly to Debo, and we know how Debo feels about getting handed the ball, so he does not like getting handoffs, but little quick screens to Debo are deadly, and we saw that a ton against the Vikings. Debo accumulated 110 receiving yards, and like I said, Brock Purdy had 320 passing yards, so I think he's going to soar over the 236.5.
Love it. Hey, backtracking for a second. How many yards did J.K. Dobbins have on the mound last week? Was on the mound? Sorry, baseball. How many yards? How many rushing yards did J.K. Dobbins have last week? Was that 130 or something?
I thought it was 130 on the dot. I'm pulling it up right here. He had 131, so I was off by a yard. Good call there. 131 and a touchdown, 17 carries.
That man can't be stopped. I don't know why that entered my brain. I'm just saying J.K. Dobbins is incredible. After the first 2 weeks, like Matt said, if you had J.K. Dobbins leading the league in rushing, no, you didn't. You're lying.
Exactly.
My third and final prop, guys. I'm going back to my week one prop that didn't hit, but I'm loving him this week. Zamir White over 59.5 yards. We are going dumpster diving for this one against the Carolina Panthers. I'm telling you, White only has 68 yards on the season, but he's still this team's workhorse and is out touching Alexander Mattison 22-9 through the first couple weeks of the season. He's taking on a Panthers team, like we've been joking around all season, that should be relegated. They're giving up close to 200 yards per game on the ground, which is incredible. I don't know how you do that, but they're doing it. The math is mathing on this one. Look for Zamir White to have his biggest game of the season and possibly score a touchdown. I'm loving Zamir White over 59.5. Matt, who's your last prop of the week, buddy? Let's hear it.
Yeah, this one would be my favorite one, if not for the fact the number came in a little higher than I was expecting, but I still love it. And that's Caleb Williams. No, I'm not betting on his arm, guys. Not betting on his arm, betting on his legs. Over 21.5 rushing yards. The Colts have the NFL's worst rushing defense, 237 rushing yards per game. That's 37.5 more yards than any other team. We talked about Mixon. He had 159 yards against the Colts and then got brought back to earth by the Bears. Even Stroud had 4 carries for 13 yards, and he's not exactly a mobile quarterback. And then last week, Josh Jacobs, 151 yards. 151 yards when Malik Willis was his quarterback. So you would think the Colts were going to stack the box and make Malik Willis beat him. Well, Willis beat him too. 6 carries for 41 yards. So, yeah, I think Caleb Williams he's frustrated, right? He wants to make some positive plays, do some positive things. He's not able to do it with his arm. He's going to resort to doing it with his legs. I think he gets this before the end of the first half. Caleb Williams over 21.5 rushing yards.
Did you guys see the discussion he had with CJ Stroud after their game last week?
He was so upset. He did not want to have any part of that conversation.
No. CJ basically came over to him and he was trying to give him advice. And I think they're the same age, but CJ just been in the league for one more year, and he did not. You could just tell. I mean, you just came off of a huge loss. You got absolutely your ass kicked all game long. I mean, every single time you look back at that backfield, Caleb Williams is on his ass. And he just did not want anything to do with CJ Stroud's conversation. It was
future gold jacket, future Hall of Fame Caleb Williams. You have to address him properly, as the media has been telling us for the last 6 months. Gold jacket, Caleb Williams.
I think they got it wrong. I think that's CJ Stroud's jacket. To be honest, it probably fits him a little bit better.
Do they make 40 shorts in Canton? I don't know, 40 shorts.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Alpha, go ahead, pal.
My final prop, guys, is going to be Aaron Jones to get a touchdown. And this backfield for Minnesota right now is crazy. Ty Chandler had the bulk share last game with 10 carries for 82 yards. However, Aaron Jones is being utilized heavily in the passing game. And when this week they're going to be going up in this game, I do think they are going to be screening the ball a lot. We saw Aaron Jones get 5 catches for 36 yards last game. He was averaging 7.5 yards per reception. He also rushed the ball 9 times for 32 yards. So the way I think they're going to play this game out is they're trying to keep Aaron Jones from getting hurt. He's gotten hurt a lot in his career so far. So I do think they are going to use Ty Chandler on a lot of the early downs, but when they get into the red zone, I do think they're going to save up Aaron Jones to let him pound the rock and get in the end zone. So give me Aaron Jones anytime touchdown.
I love it. I love it. How are we feeling, guys? Are we able to catch our breath after that round table? Yeah. Alpha's like, I see the veins coming down his forehead. He's like, hey,
I'm making it through. I'm getting through.
Guys, our last segment of the day. I appreciate the close to 500 people in here. We're 47 minutes deep. Not too bad at all. We're going to go to our fantasy stardom sit-em. I mean, we absolutely killed this last year. You heard it here first. I mean, I think I had Marvin Harrison as my stardom last week. And I think after his absolute dud in the first week, and he showed up with a 130 and 2 line. That's 4 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you might want to sit in and listen to some of this fantasy advice. It's been good to us. It's been good to us. It's been good to myself and my fantasy leagues. Just listen to Matt and Alpha. Let's get to it. If you started Zamir White, if you heard me in my props in the first 2 weeks, how could you possibly sit him against the Panthers? I mean, you went through 2 weeks of just absolute heartbreak for you to now sit him against the Panthers. You're not going to do that. Give him one more week to right the ship. I'm telling you, he's going to have a big game. Watch him go for 80 plus and a touchdown against this absolutely putrid Panthers defense. I'm starting Zamir White as my start of the week. Alpha, who's your start of the week, pal?
I've used him before, and we're going to use him right again. We are going to Brock Bowers. Guys, Brock Bowers has been absolutely insane this year. He's getting such a large target share. He's gotten 17 targets in his first 2 games. Last week, he had 9 targets, and guess how many catches he made? I won't make you guess. All 9. So he's clearly a big favorite down there and a huge weapon. I think they're going to continue to look at him. And if you look at how he's done in fantasy, he's climbing up that tight end leaderboard rather quickly. I believe he has top 5 or 6 tight end numbers this year. I've been screaming about him all year long, and I think he's going to continue to light it up. Brock Bowers is the real deal in the passing game.
Love it. Matt, start him.
Yeah, this one is basically, this is just a continuation of what we just talked about with my final prop on Caleb Williams. And it sounds crazy, but start DeAndre Swift against that crappy Colts defense. Swift only has 48 rushing yards on 24 carries. So much like Zamir White, he hasn't lived up to expectations. But just like Zamir White, who's he facing this week? A defense that can be run on. And I expect Swift to get a lot of carries in this game. Again, take some pressure off Caleb Williams' arm, run the ball. Again, it's a team you can successfully do so against. And I expect DeAndre Swift to have a big game. I would start him.
Yeah, Fantasy's all about matchups. I mean, a week ago, I told you guys to sit Swift. He threw up 14 rush attempts for 18 yards. He could go off this week. I'm not trying to say we know what we're talking about, but sometimes, just not very often, but sometimes we do. For my sit-em, guys, I'm going to go, and it kills me to say this, Jalen Waddle. But Miami's in tough this week with Skylar Thompson starting. He'll be checking the ball down against Seattle like nobody's business. He still has Tyreek to feed. Let Waddle take a breather on your bench this week. A week ago, I mean, this offense just doesn't seem they're mistimed. They're not hitting their routes. It's all timing routes, and they weren't hitting them with Tua. I don't think this offense changes much with Skylar Thompson I was going to say on the bump again. Oh my God, I've been watching too much baseball. I don't see this offense changing much with Skylar Thompson starting. I'm going to let Jalen Waddle have a breather on my bench this week. He's my sit-em of the week. Alpha, how about you, bud?
This one is an interesting one that I'm going with, and it's another tight end. Guys, you got to sit Travis Kelce. I've been saying it before the year even started. This guy is not going to have a massive year during the regular season. He's getting up there in age, and they are saving him for the playoffs. There's no need to force the guy the ball 500 times a game during the regular season when they really need to salvage him for the playoffs. Let's take a look at how he's done this year. Game 1 against Baltimore. The Chiefs scored 27 points. They put up points, right? He had to have big action. He had 3 catches for 34 yards on 4 targets. Not a good game. All right, maybe it was just one game. Let's go to the second one. Check out how he did against the Bengals, a team he has a lot of success with in the past. 1 catch, 5 yards, 1.6 fantasy points. I just don't see a monster year coming out of Kelce this year, and we've seen that through the first couple weeks. Like I said, Brock Bowers is my young tight end coming up the ranks, who I would try and get at for a pretty high cost right now, because I think all season long, Brock Bowers is going to be an absolute stud. And this week, especially against this Falcons team, we saw the Falcons team shut down Dallas Goedert. He really did not do much in that game. I think we see a similar result with Travis Kelce.
Do you know how much that's going to hurt to drag Travis Kelce from your tight end spot to put him on your bench? If you come through with this, I mean, I guess you're just a fantasy genius. If he throws up like a 2-catch, 10-yard game,
that would be better than he had last week. 2-catch, 10-yard game would be double the fantasy points to the exact decimal that he had last week.
Listen to Alpha. No matter how much it hurts, it's going to break your heart to put him down there with the draft capital that you spent on him, but it might be the play. It might be
honestly, if you can, trade him. He still has a ton of value. I do not think Travis Kelce has a big year. I just don't. I've been saying it all year long, and the first 2 weeks have proved that. They are going to need to save him for the playoffs. He is getting older. I would trade him. If you can get some value out of him, try and get Brock Bowers. I really think he will be the better player for the whole season.
So you're
Isn't Watson getting more looks too?
Sorry, go ahead.
Isn't Watson getting more looks out of that tight end spot?
Watson had triple the catches and targets last week. Like I said, I don't think they're going to force feed him like they usually do every year. You just can't now that he's 35, 36 years old. You just can't force feed him to get hit that many times anymore.
Well, Tay doesn't want her man hurt, so I'm sure she's like
exactly. I'm sure she appreciates that.
Show, she's going to be angry at you. She's like,
that's all right. She can reach out if she has any complaints.
I'm sure she can. Matt, who's your sit-up?
I got 2 quick ones, guys, and I'm going to butcher his name because I always do, even though I just try to look up the pronunciation. Apparently, it's Devon Achane. It's not
Achane.
Everyone calls him Achane.
Yeah, apparently he wants to be called Achane, so okay, that's what it is if I'm reading right. Anyway, he's only got 120 yards on 32 carries, and thus you brought up Skylar Thompson, QB. Yeah. It's not like Seattle's rush defense is all that great. They're about middle of the pack, maybe a little bit below average against the run. They got run over by Ramondre Stevenson last week, but this is a situation like what you expect from the Colts to do last week. You would think that Seattle would do this week, and that is stack the box and force Tyler Thompson to beat him. That should limit Ishan's attempts and yards. And another one that I'm just throwing out there just to prove to everybody who might be listening why I retired from fantasy football, because you're going to say I'm crazy, and that's Justin Jefferson against the Texans. 9 sacks
this week.
What's that?
You guys are crazy with these.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his injury and his quarterback. Darnold had a great game last week. He's faced a Texas team that's been all over quarterbacks this year. I think they're going to get to him and rattle him. I think it's going to limit Justin Jefferson's targets. And of course, all it takes is that one big bomb like he had last week to blow the roof off the place. But just to throw it out there, just to, again, to prove why I retired from fantasy football.
I love it. Hey, if a guy is watching the show and he has Travis Kelce and Justin Jefferson, he's gonna have to sit on both. But quick question for Big Brain Bets: Caleb Williams or Sam Darnold in my poverty QB room? Alpha, I'll let you take this one, and I'll have a few thoughts too.
First of all, shout out Big Brain Bets. Glad to see you in the chat, my friend. Appreciate it. You know the answer to this. I don't know why you're asking this. I speak to you quite frequently, and you know Sam Darnold is the better poverty quarterback than Gold Jacket Caleb Williams.
No, I absolutely agree. You have to start Sam Darnold. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this because I have a poverty QB room as well. I had Tua, I have Jared Goff, so I had to get a backup once Tua went down. I spent 11 fab on Sam Darnold, unfortunately, and I'm starting him this week. Just for some reason that I think it was a 100-yard bomb to Justin Jefferson backed up on their 1-yard line. That just, gives me a nice feeling about Sam Darnold. I think he's back. And every single time I see him, he's driving down the field, and he just did so against the 49ers. So that's an easy answer for me. Caleb Williams, you don't want a guy who's going to get sacked 6 times a game. You want Sam Darnold, who's actually been lighting up the league so far. So yeah, you're going Sam Darnold here. Let's get serious. But fellas, hey, thank you so much for stopping by. Big Brain Bets. I appreciate you coming and talking to us. Eric from Ghana, huge shout out to you, man. Thank you guys for coming. Just about 500 people in here, and that just about does it for us in week 3. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, talking with us, showing us love. As always, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. If you tail us or fade us, just remember, we always love you. Let's have a damn week and make some money. We'll see you guys
next week. Let's go Giants.
See ya.
Dustin, let's go Giants, baby. It's our week. It's our week.
It's our week.